Hey there, all you creepers and reapers. Welcome to another episode of the Femme Fatalities. I'm your co hostess, Anna, and I'm here with.
Hey everybody, it's Margaret. Welcome you grieflings and frightlings. And today we're gonna go back to I wouldn't say a classic movie, but it definitely is a movie of its time. Anna, what movie are we talking about today?
Yes, well, this one takes me way back to the bowels and recesses of my high school hallways. That's right, guys. We're talking about none other than Jennifer's Body. So, before you tune in, grab yourself a little tiny cup of Bruja Brew and a couple snackies. Get ready for some school spirit and some fun little year-end highlights for this little ditty.
Yes, trigger warnings. Violence, of course. There is. Would you agree, Anna? They allude to in the beginning Jennifer being drugged. I'm gonna say she's drugged because her
Mm-hmm.
just like getting into the van with the creepy band and
Yeah.
all of that. So there is kidnapping, abduction, but being more coerced because you're under
Mm-hmm.
the influence of something and being taken advantage, sexual relationships, sexuality. What else we got going on in this movie?
Definitely adolescent gender roles and where people fit in, categorization of groups, archetypes, those sorts of things. There's some gore. I would say on the gore scale, probably like 3 cauldrons out of 10 for me. Not too much. A lot of interpersonal relationship drama. So if that triggers you, you may want to skip ahead. And I mean, this could trigger you too. I think it's great, but definitely a throwback to the early 2000s. If and also Akon, the song is in the movie, which just tickled me pink. But if you don't like that song, that could trigger you as well. Um, it's an interesting ride. Would you agree, Margaret?
Oh yeah, it's a very interesting ride. I think it's a fun ride from a female perspective. This movie really did touch on female adolescent relationships. If you had the hot friend and you were the nerdy friend, and if your
Mm-hmm.
friend didn't like your boyfriend, or if your friend liked your boyfriend, and all these dynamics that, like Anna was saying, is very reminiscent of high school and
Mm-hmm.
women finding their voice and either coming into it or oftentimes allowing others to find that voice for us.
Definitely, and I actually would say too, if anyone's ever heard kind of the idea or theory that when you're traumatized, you pass that trauma on through your behaviors towards others, I would, from my perspective, I think that Jennifer is essentially doing that after she becomes a succubus to her victims, because these are definitely not the typical company she would keep, I guess we could
Mhm.
say. Um, so in a way, you almost kind of. Oh, okay. I did feel bad for them. I didn't just kind of feel bad. I'm like, oh no, these poor unsuspecting dudes. Why can't she just eat the douchebags from the band that did this to her in the first place? But we'll get to that in a minute. So I guess in a nutshell, kind of what happens, we meet Jennifer and her best friend Needy, and they have been besties since they were in the sandbox, little tiny tater tots, and they're in high school. As Margaret said, Jennifer is definitely the popular hot friend. Needy is more of the intelligent, cute one. Um, I kind of got the sense that Needy is also the the nice one, and Jennifer maybe has the tendency to be not so nice. What do you think, Margaret?
Oh, I completely agree that Jennifer's not so nice. Even in the beginning, there's the pep rally. Who remembers having to go to those horrible pep
Ugh.
rallies? Sorry if anybody here like loved those. Those
Mm.
felt like torture. for
Yeah.
me, and Needy's like cheering on Jennifer, and the
Mhm.
one friend is like, why are you friends with her? Like, this is
Mhm. Yeah.
ew.
Right. Yeah, I mean I used to actually call them prep rallies because I always felt like it was just for the preppy kids, right? I
It
clearly
was.
was not one of them. But yeah, it's just like ugh,
Yeah.
ugh.
Ew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously not for us. If it's for you, hey, go to the pep pep rallies and enjoy yourself. Um, but yeah, definitely. She also is very overbearing in terms of the friendship because, she expects Needy to kind of cancel plans, be there when she needs her, those sorts of things. Um, and we see that even before the incident where she's like, well, dump your boyfriend plans and go out with me. I want to do this. Let's do that.
And like you said, she's controlling because
Mm-hmm.
nope, I want to go see this band. I'm totally in love with them. And then when Needy's getting ready, she's telling Chip, right? She's like, well, I can't dress as sexy as Jennifer and I
Mm-hmm.
can't outdress her. I still have to look cute or Jennifer will be upset if I don't look cute. And then
Yeah.
even later on when they're at the bar, Jennifer's telling Needy, your tits are that's your power. Like use them
Mm-hmm.
to get your needs met. So Needy's in this place that often happens. We have those friends that are like, you can't upstage me, but you can't
Mm-hmm.
look bad because then you're going to make me look bad. And then if I'm using my tits to get attention, then you need to be using your tits to get attention because I'm thinking for Jennifer, 4 tits are better than 2.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I feel like everyone kind of has similar friends in high school, particularly that age. For me, it was kind of strange just because when I was an adolescent, I don't even know if this term exists anymore, but I was straight edge. So I did not drink, I didn't do drugs, I did not have sex. I was very, very accepting of like other people in their lifestyles. Like I had a lot of gay friends and, um, friends that were diverse, but I was also the first one to lecture my friends if they were engaging in like activities I did not like. You need to respect yourself, you need to respect your body, like those sorts of things. Um, so I think it was just for me, every time like I saw another scene, I'm like, I don't remember doing this. I don't remember that in high school. But then I was like, oh yeah, everybody else was doing it, and I was just like super lame. Like I surpassed Needy in the nerd squad status.
Like you say, like this is not going to be a relatable movie for everybody. It is very like cliche clicks for, and this is a small town too, and I wonder if that's it too. If you grew up in like near a metro city, you're gonna have a different experience than small
Yeah.
town because everybody knows everybody in
Mm-hmm.
their world. The cliques are kind of like overlapping and interwoven. I know for me, cliques really didn't overlap when I was in
Yeah.
high school, and I was like, horrible. I did not have a good adolescence. There was a lot going on. So it can be hard to relate to. I think
Mm-hmm.
for me, I looked at this from a female presenting kind of that adolescence of as females, we are expected to use
Yeah.
our bodies, to show our bodies. We're coming into our bodies, and how are we
Mm-hmm.
Needy's like she's a nerd, and so then how
Yeah.
she wants to use her brain, and how is she coming into her
Right.
body at the end, right when she breaks out of prison? I took her as that was like
She's
symbolic. She's
breaking
breaking,
free.
yeah,
Yeah.
breaking free of this is what you're supposed to be as a woman,
Mm-hmm.
which Jennifer really embodied. She's pretty, she's sexy, she's watching that, well, what was that thing called? My mom had that
Oh, that
infomercial that they
Tony,
had. The
Tony with the pony.
yeah,
Um, yeah, the air step. No, not the air stepper. It was
it was like
something
the
like that.
glide thing, like the
Yeah,
skiing thing.
my parents had one too. I think they still have one somewhere in the house. Yeah, that was all the rage back then. But the thing about Jennifer too is she's almost, she's not really vapid, but she gives the impression that she is. Like, she's like, oh, can I copy your homework? Can I do this? Can I do that? But she's also very strategic and calculated. So I think it's funny to assume that she's not intelligent, but if you really look at how she aligns her goals and objectives throughout the film, before and after the possession, she's extremely, extremely strategy oriented.
Yes. Oh, for sure. Definitely. And she's not like needy. She's definitely strategic and she's figuring it
Mm-hmm.
out. And needy's more,
Like,
she's
oh,
kind of like, she's just trying to figure it out, where
oh
Jennifer
yeah.
feels very
Mm-hmm.
predatory, very, she's going to get her needs met. And
Right.
if you're in
Yeah.
her way, then, and also it struck me how she went after people needy cared about. That felt very
Mm-hmm.
high school to me,
Yeah.
whereas women, we feel like the way that we get power is by taking power from other women and not
Mm-hmm.
saying, okay, cool, like you've got your power there. How can I have power there? That very undermining. I felt for Nene. I was like, gosh, Jennifer's
Mm-hmm.
not a good friend. Here's this
Yeah.
guy that's your friend. And so you tell her that you like him. So she's going to go kill him, not
She's gonna eat him.
because, yeah, he's like,
Yeah.
he's a good guy. He'd be good for you. She's like, oh, yeah, like he's your friend. I'm going to take him from you. I'm going to take your boyfriend from
Yeah.
you.
Well, and even like, I felt so bad. Well, okay, I did feel bad for all of Jennifer's victims because, like, the funny thing is, I feel like, and let me know what your thoughts are too. As I watched it, I'd never seen it before. I just recently watched it for the first time, and her victims are very against, I think, at particularly at that time, like in the early 2000s, it was still very much about like, oh, machismo, and like you should behave like this if you're masculine facing and those sorts of things. So, her first victim is a jock, but he cries, right? Because his friend just died. That's like not very macho in the mindset of the early 2000s person. The next guy is like the artsy goth creative writing guy, which once again, masculine facing person in touch with their feelings. And then I feel like Needy's boyfriend just kind of like the dopey friend zone guy, you know what I mean? Like, oh, he's always just around and everybody loves him, but he's kind of dopey. But they're all kind of the guys that would be in their own small cliques or like outcast at that time in high school. Like, things have changed exponentially from what I can see looking at adolescence now, but I do feel like it's a comment on the feminine mystique and taking power back, as well as a comment on the masculine mystique and what those expectations are if you behave in a certain way that's not associated with being like a man. If you know what I mean, like at that time, because this was what, like 2003. So here we are 21 years later. Um can't believe I was in high school 20 years ago. Um sorry. Uh, but things have changed a bit now. But just at that time, it was very like gender identity. I feel like we saw that a lot in media and film, magazines, everywhere you looked, it was very much like, if you are this, then you should be this.
I love that take on it, right? How it's hitting stereotypes and Jennifer taking her power from each of these masculine
Mm-hmm.
stereotypes, that she's going to have her power regardless of the male facing masculine that she's presented with. I also saw it as, from a thanatology perspective, how often when we're grieving and we think we can be vulnerable with somebody, how they're
Mm-hmm.
going to use that to feed
Yeah,
their own narrative, or they're going to use
exactly.
it to take power
Mm-hmm.
from us. Oh, you're hurting. or even like our desires where, oh, you
Mhm.
want this, so I'm going to use this to my benefit and hurt you,
Right.
especially with the jock, because he just wants somebody to witness his grief. He's torn
Yeah.
up and he thinks Jennifer's there to support him.
Mhm.
And she just feeds off of it. And how
Yeah.
often are we grieving and somebody just
Mhm.
feeds off of it like a succubus, just
Yeah.
like sucks the life from
Oh,
us?
yeah.
Or the artsy kid that's like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, I'm liked. It just felt like these men,
Mhm.
because this is again very much male female
Oh, yeah.
movie. I'm being seen. I was like,
Yeah.
ooh, into the emo area where
Mhm.
male facing people are starting to tap into their feminine side and being
Yeah.
seen. And here is Jennifer. Needy would have been better to
Oh,
witness
yeah.
this because she was more
Mhm.
imbalanced. Jennifer is a definitely, and correct me if you disagree, Anna, a stereotypical, what we would think of a popular
Yeah.
stereotypical high school female.
Oh, yeah. I mean, very much within that stereotype. And especially, I think that when you parallel the whole succubus storyline and popularity, willing to meet my own needs to keep my status and my standing at all cost. I mean, how many of us knew a popular kid in high school who just made our lives complete fire and brimstone so that they could keep themselves up,
Mhm.
or at least feel like they were? And if anyone out there is listening right now and you were in high school, Margaret and I think, can attest to this. It does get better. Like, don't focus on them, because 5, 10 years from now, you're going to be finishing college, or you're going to be in college. You're going to be going on to bigger, better things, doing what you want, studying what you want, living a life that is hopefully designed very well for you. Don't get caught up in someone else's opinion of you, because it does not matter. You know who you are, who you care about and what you care about and what you believe in. And that's all that should matter.
Yeah. Oh, they're not gonna matter. Yes, I can
Hmm.
piggyback that. I totally agree with Anna. 5, 10, 20 years from now, those people aren't going to matter, and they may want to try to matter, especially in social media. You will find there are people that knew you in high school and want to keep you at high school you. That says more about them. They're still stuck in high school. They can't let go of who you were. I think Anna would agree. I still have my core personality. I am not the person I was
Nope.
in high school. I am so different. I've done lots of work.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm not that person.
Yeah.
So if you're listening, I hurt you in high school. I apologize. And if you're holding on to high school me, I really hope that you're able to do some work so that you can process why you're giving
Hmm.
me power from high school. Me, take
Yeah.
back your own power. And I'm not giving you my power. I think Anna and I, some podcasts ago, were talking about adolescence and how certain people took our power from us. And I'd share a story about running into somebody who definitely keeps me in high school. Me loves to
Hmm.
share with people who I was in high school. And it's like, yeah, that's not me. And I wish you all the best. And you
Yeah.
can have those people if they want to believe your version of me.
Right. Yeah. And I do have to say, too, I mean, I think that in high school, we also come across people who are acquaintances or friends that kind of stick with us throughout our lifetime and support us, but in different ways. And oftentimes that will change, that will look different. So when you're like 29 or 30, it's not going to look the same as when you were 15 or 16, but that doesn't mean the relationship is wrong. It just means that you're evolving. And that's kind of what we're supposed to do. I actually recently read that all of our cells in the human body regenerate between every 7 to 10 years. So if you really look at this in the broad introspective scope, not the physiological or biological scope, for anyone out there who is a scientist, and not a death scientist as we are, um, you are a new person every decade. Like, when you think about it, all of your cells have regenerated. You're a totally different new person. So, of course things are going to change because you're changing too. And keep that in mind. Like, we are all growing, we are all changing. The main thing is that you find out what works best for you. Make sure that you have the proper people and proper supports. And, if you are going through some sort of change or loss or grief or any other experience, there are services out there to help you navigate that as well. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. I mean, if you're, going into college or grad school, you're going back to school, you're switching careers, whatever it is, there are counselors out there who can coach you and help you navigate through that if you feel overwhelmed or just so excited you don't know where to start.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I love that. Like we change every 7 to 10 years. Remember that. And again, like you get to grow, you get to change. There are supports out there, and you're not going to be the person that you were. Like I touched on and I shared in our thanatology class in high school, I was what is called parasuicidal, which means I wasn't actively suicidal. I was just making a lot of choices that could easily end my life. And I love life now. I'm in a place where life is good. So even if you're there, know that
Mm-hmm.
that's not going to last forever. You're going to be able to get out of there. There is hope in these people that feed that or encourage it or whatever it is. Like we're talking about high school, Jennifer's
Mm-hmm.
body. There are people that are going to keep kicking you when you're down and not see your pain. And then you get to come out of that and be like, wow, I survived that and
Mm-hmm.
I'm better for it. It made me a better person.
Exactly. Yeah. And really, um, I don't know that they'll ever listen, but there were a few people that, like anybody else, that really kind of kicked me down and, amplified the pain and didn't take the time to talk to me or understand who I was. And, I actually feel like I owe them a big thank you because it just made me stronger. So,
Yeah.
I think with experience in life comes wisdom and maturity, and eventually we get to a point where we can kind of say, you know what, I'm either going to let it continue to keep me down or I'm going to get up and do what I need to do. And I
Because
encourage
those
every
people,
single person who is listening to this podcast right now to do what they need to do to sustain a beautiful, healthy, mindful life, because that's exactly what you deserve.
yes. And as Anna's saying, those people that bullied her, those people that turned their back on me, all those people that bully you, turn their back on you, that tells you that they don't have the capacity or the capability to show up how
Mm-hmm.
you need them to. They
Yes.
are not people that even deserve any of your energy because they're like we're talking again, Jennifer's body, the succubus, they are
Mm-hmm.
sucking the life from you because
Yeah.
they get something from bullying you. They get
Mm-hmm.
something from, oh my gosh, I can't believe that Margaret, whatever, and takes my trauma, which happens in high school, something traumatic happens, and then the story becomes you are a willing participant, especially as
Mm-hmm.
women, and being like, okay, that just tells me you
Yeah.
can't deal with your trauma. You're not in a place to deal with my trauma. You can't even deal with your own shit. So now you have to bully Anna because they're not even like you get to say,
Right.
I'm taking back my power. You don't get my power by hurting me,
Mm-hmm.
which is how Jennifer gets her power. She
Yeah.
bullies me. She's not a likable person.
No, she's not. And
Yeah.
although I have to say, the box cutter thing, I'm still laughing. Like, that's not an efficient way to stake someone through the heart. I could think of 10 weapons off the bat that would work much better than a box cutter.
Needy needed to get some lessons from. Hopefully we'll talk about these movies at some point. Becky, Wrath of Becky.
Yeah.
There's some creative kills.
Yeah, definitely. I was just like a box cutter. But it's memorable.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess
Yeah.
it did what it was supposed to. But I like too at the end where Needy escapes, right? And then she goes and she takes care of the band. because she was bit by Jennifer, so she has some of these succubi powers, but not all of them. But I think that really goes to show like the depth of true friendship, um, how deeply involved she was in her friendship with Jennifer. Like, yeah, she gave her a coup de grace, right? But she needed it because that was not Jennifer anymore. She was overtaken by some other power. And they'd known each other, I don't know, they're what, like 17, 18 in the movie? So for 14 years, the majority of their lives. And the depths of their friendship and growing up together and those sorts of things. And I think that the revenge really says even more about Needy as a person. And it kind of, to me, it's the whole classic horror theme where like the final girl, good triumphs evil, even that internal struggle, like the kindness and love that she has overpowers that negative force that is now inside of her.
Yes, I think you touched so beautifully on Needy and also the friendship, because even when Needy kills Jennifer and the necklace, the BFF necklace gets broken
Mhm.
off, it's almost like that is what really is the final blow to what is left of Jennifer in there was that
Mhm.
she, even though she wasn't a good friend, she
Yeah.
really did love Needy. She really did value the relationship, and that
Mhm.
Needy, I don't know about anybody else who watches. I don't know about you, Anna. I was waiting for that revenge. The whole movie, I was like, come
Mhm.
on, we need to go kill this band. They're the
Yeah.
jerks. Why are they being held accountable? Why are they getting
Mhm.
all this fame? Which happens in life. Asshole people
Right.
get fame. They step on the backs of people that get them there. They don't acknowledge them. And I'm like, for this movie to feel good, I
Yeah.
want the assholes to get it. And they
Mhm.
did. And
Yeah. Well,
I I
it was
loved it.
great. And I love like how it happens during the end roll. It's really funny. And um I thought it was hilarious because there's the scene where they're about to do the sacrifice and he's like, don't you want to be like the lead singer of Maroon 5? And anyone who knows me, I may or may not have spoken about this on the cast before. I know you and I have talked about this. I have very distinct feelings about that particular musician. And I was like, nobody wants to be like him. You're gonna make a sacrifice to the Dark Lord, at least make it worth it, you know? Um, but in all seriousness, I was like, yeah, that was totally 2003. Like these bands, this archetype of character, they were a dime a dozen. Like they were everywhere. And how quickly we forget that like the market was saturated. Teenage girls' hearts were saturated. Some teenage boys' hearts were saturated too with this particular musician, this kind of character. And, you know, it's funny because you think through the music and through their stage presence that they're one personality type or, you know, a really great band who cares about their fans. And then, you know, the truth of it is much different. So I like how, in a sense, the film kind of speaks to when our Delulus are not true Lulus. You know, especially during teenage years, we tend to think that the world in our mind is the world in accuracy.
Yes. Oh, that's so wonderfully said about the band and again how we idolize and all the young people that were I was Jennifer's room, the Fallout Boy wall behind her. My
Mhm.
daughter was I was like, "Oh my god, I'm pretty sure she had some of those posters." And I was like, "Yep, they're
Mhm.
in like Panic at the Disco and like Anna saying
Yeah.
all these bands that just
Mhm.
saturated and even when he's like, "Don't you want to be like Maroon 5?" and like me too. I was like, can't we pick somebody a bit more hardcore? Like, or
Right.
like you're gonna make a sacrifice? Like, I was
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, like Ozzy, you gotta go for like
Right. Like, you know, Black Sabbath, or for me, it was more like, don't you want to be like Run DMC or, you know, someone who was valid during my adolescence, right? Um, you know, because I'm Like, I love 90s hip hop. Always have, always will. Obviously, they couldn't be like, don't you want to be like Salt and Pepper and Vogue because like they're lady bands. So
Mhm.
wouldn't have worked. But I was just like, really? But it added to the satire of the whole film. And that's the other thing. I love Diablo Cody. Actually, before I saw Juno, I read her book. It's called Candy Girl, and it's about her. Have you read it?
No.
Okay, so she worked as a dancer, and she writes about all of these different things that happen, and she talks about like the sex industry and women and men, and it's just I love it. I mean, I could probably read it again. I've probably read it about 10 times, and each time I read it, I just feel like I learned something new, but I think it's great.
Yes. Ooh, I'm gonna have to read it. And like you said, it touches on the satire, and even of course it was Maroon 5 because they were the pop, they were the
Oh
popular,
yeah.
they were what was big at this time. And yeah, they wanted to be like
Mhm.
him. And again, how that,
Yeah.
like Anna's been talking about, we are influenced by pop culture. We want
Mhm.
to be like whoever it is that is in the
Is
limelight.
yeah, whoever's cool. And the funny thing is when they're in like the band's in the hotel room and they have this giant bowl filled with M&Ms and M's and they're throwing it around, I'm like, I could go to Dollar Tree and spend like $8 and get a big bowl and fill it with M&Ms and M's and throw it at someone. Like it's really not that fantastic. Like, you know what I mean? But once again, it adds to the satire where they're just doing like stereotypical silly things.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. So Anna, who were you most like in this movie?
Oh, that's a very good question. I okay, I have to say I'm probably identify the most with the emo kid. Um, just because I saw a lot of my high school experience in his character. I was in the creative writing club and my friends were all creative writers and very kind of like emo or hidden emo type kids. Yeah, I mean, I listened to gangster rap, but I was writing about my feelings nonstop. So, um, it's just, I think because of that character, that archetype of the feeling sensitive, thoughtful kid who's mindful and thinking about the future and questioning the world at that age. That's really why I pick him. How about you, Margaret?
Oh, he was so sweet. I
I
loved him.
know.
He was one of my
Even before
favorite
he
characters.
even before he got eaten, he's like, "You don't even know my name, and you want to do it with me?" And I'm like, "Oh, I love him. He's so sweet." But then I'm like, I know he's gonna die.
I know. I did not want him to die. He was such a sweet.
No.
He was a sweet kid. Yes. Oh. I'm gonna have to go with Needy's mom.
Oh yeah.
Just when she's like, be careful, and I had a bad dream about you. And I was like, that's really interesting that she dreamt that like Needy was like Jesus or something, or like being
Yeah.
persecuted like Jesus. I'm like, well, there's some like interesting
Yeah. Comparison there.
revelation
Yeah.
in the movie,
Yeah.
maybe. But yeah, I was like, yep, I am that mom. I had a bad dream and you need to be careful because I dreamt this
Mhm.
happened. And my kiddo being like, okay, mom. Cool, mom.
Right? Isn't that Amy
Yeah.
Sedaris that plays her mom?
Is it? I think you're right.
I looked at her. I'm like, I swear that's Amy Sedaris, and then I heard her voice. I'm like, that has to be. I'm gonna Google it real quick.
Well, there's a young Chris Pratt in the beginning too that I was
Yes.
like, oh my gosh.
I was like, before he was famous.
Yes. Even the kid, the emo kid,
Yeah.
he's in
Yeah,
tons of
he's in a
stuff
bunch of
now
stuff
too.
too. Like, um, it's just funny to see. Well, and Adam Brody played like
Mhm.
the jerk face band
Yeah.
leader. Yeah, it is Amy Sedaris. I knew it. But I thought that was funny because he was on the OC at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, I was just waiting. I don't know what I was waiting for, but it didn't happen. I just thought that was really funny though. And once again, I mean,
Yeah.
I really think that this was written and created as a comment on adolescence and gender roles and empowerment, but also a satire of the
Mm-hmm.
expectations of all of those things.
Yes. And then you had to live up to those
Mm-hmm.
expectations, how people just fell
Yeah.
into line. And even the satire on there's all these deaths, and the school is trying to be like,
Yeah.
we're going to honor your grief. We're going to do these things. And how it just seems to fall short for this
Mm-hmm.
population of the school.
Oh, totally. And I mean, I think that it really illustrates something that has not changed at all in public schools. And I would venture to say private schools, lack of death education.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said it before, I will continue saying it. Sex ed starts in fifth or sixth grade. Guarantee when a child is 10 or 11 years old, they have probably known someone or something to have died. Chances are that's way more likely than them being sexually active. So,
Mm-hmm.
priorities.
Yes. Agreed.
Yeah. And I think,
Yeah.
too, just not having that education, what do? You send the kid to the guidance counselor. If they're not comfortable with death, if they're not aligned with grief talk, that does more of a disservice than good. I
Mm-hmm.
know for me, when I was in sixth grade, my grandfather died, and he and I were very, very close. It was my dad's father. Went back to school. It was over spring break. So I came back and I was very upset. My teacher sent me to the guidance counselor, and my counselor's suggestion was just don't think about it. Try to forget. That's not helpful to
No.
someone who's grieving. And it just, especially as a pre adolescent, I was 11. I was like, is there something wrong with me? Why do I feel this way? Then obviously, if my counselor says that I'm doing it wrong, there must be something wrong with me. So not only then do you have a child or pre-adolescent who's grieving, you also have one who is, treading the tide into the pool of depression because of others' expectations that are put onto them.
Yes. I, I totally agree. We need more death education. We need more teachers, guidance counselors to be educated, to normalize the experience of grief. Jennifer's Body, they tried. I give them credit because, as
Mm-hmm.
Anna's sharing, that often doesn't even happen. There is no acknowledgement. Get over it. Don't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
They were dead. They lived a good life. However, it
Yeah.
is that grief is minimized and not, yeah, this is going to hurt and this is going to suck. And it's,
Mm-hmm.
you're on a journey now. Death has entered your life. How are you working
Mm-hmm.
with it? And it's really sad that, again, you're going to get tired of hearing Anna and I talk about how
Yeah.
there's not enough done. It's not honored enough.
Right.
People aren't honored enough because of other people's discomfort. Like we were talking
Mm-hmm.
about high school bullies and people that want to keep you locked to who you were.
Mm-hmm.
Again, people don't have the capacity. So they don't want to, oh my gosh, you're grieving. I don't want to
Yeah.
even go there with you. Okay, then don't. And we need to have more resources so that, oh, I can go talk to this person or a therapist or a guidance counselor that can say, yeah,
Yeah.
you're grieving. This is what you need to do.
Totally. Agree. Yeah. And hey, if you are listening, if you are, in middle school or high school or college and you are going through a grief experience, there are supports and services out there to you. Also, if you are an adult and you have concerns about someone who is younger than you, or pre-adolescent or adolescent, experiencing grief and or loss for the first time or going through some other sort of change, there are so many different groups out there that are available to support a variety of ages. Many concentrate on one age demography. as well as, looking at kind of the social aspects and the location aspects. A kid who lives in a rural country farm setting is probably not going to be having the same grief and loss experiences as a child who lives in a more urban environment, right? So we want to make sure that we pair kids with services that actually work for them.
Yes. Amen. I completely agree. Got a lot of work in society to do. And if you're listening, you can honor your grief. That's a start.
Definitely. Yeah. And, just by talking about it, by acknowledging it, like Margaret said, that is the first step. Just know that there are people out there that care about you, that want to help you. If you are going through any sort of experience, please message us, DM us through Instagram, send us a message through our email. We will try and help you find a resource that will work really well for you.
Yes.
Definitely.
Anything else?
Not really. Other than this has nothing to do with thanatology, I'm so happy that super low rise jeans have not come back.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I agree. The fashion, just watching, I was like, ew.
I was like, I wore that. What was I thinking? What happened? Yeah, it's great.
Yes. So, yeah.
All right, guys and gals, let's sum this up. If you want your band to be successful, don't complete a human sacrifice ceremony. Just work really hard. And hopefully you'll get there. Especially now with all of these different streaming options. I mean, you can get out there so much easier than in the early 2000s. So, think about that. And in all seriousness, life does get better. Every age has its own kind of stories of turmoil and turbulence, but hey, you know what? If you're listening to this, you're still here. There's a reason for that. Keep on going. Hang in there. Know that there are supports and services out there if you need them, and there are people who care about you.
Yes. Agreed. And the band, come on, human sacrifice. They went for the hot chick. That was on them. Looking at Needy and Jennifer and talking about you needed a virgin.
Mm-hmm.
They picked wrong. And really, they didn't have any good options because neither one was a virgin in that they assumed. And I'm not even saying they wanted the hot chick. They said they needed a virgin. So stereotypes, you get to blow those out of the water. You are who you are, regardless of how people think you are, based on how you look, because that's what people are going to do. You're amazing just the way you are.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Agreed.
All right,
Well,
everybody, thanks for listening.
Yes, thank you so much. And until next time, stay creepy.
Ooh, bye.